What's going on, people? Welcome to the 7th Q&A? Damn, I've done a lot of these. Today we're gonna do the exact same thing that we've done in every other Q&A, but actually this time around there's a fair few very solid questions. The interesting thing about the Q&As when I do them is that a lot of the time I'm just hoping that people will ask the right questions, and if they don't ask a question that I wanted to answer, then I don't really get to answer it. And I don't think it's fair for a Q&A to have a question that I asked myself, so if something doesn't come up, then it doesn't come up. But this time around, there's a lot of stuff that I wanted to answer, so I think it's gonna make for a very solid Q&A. But I won't waste any more of your time, let's jump into it. Our first question comes from the Glass Man, and he asks, just out of curiosity, would you continue to do more YBA content in the future, if ever you still have the will to do so, such as Build or Bust, 1v1 Bingo, or Story Challenges? So in other words, do you plan to continue to make YBA videos? And yes, I do. The thing is, I've been playing YBA for an eternity. And just like a lot of you, I'm sitting here just hoping that they'll release an update that fixes some stuff and makes it so that there's new stuff to mess with. And the reality is that I really enjoy and like YBA. It's just, I've played it so much that I can't only play that. And so while there are obviously a fair few, if not a lot of people on the channel that want me to exclusively play YBA, which frankly, I don't even know how that's possible at this point, seeing how it's been like 9 months without a content update. But still, I get a lot of questions on whether or not I'm quitting YBA because there's been less videos, and why series have it taken so long to come out. And I mean, one of the series that didn't come out for a while was Build or Bust, and that's only because every time I went to record it, either I ran into SCR and I didn't want to play anymore, or I just thought to myself, I have to use trash and I really just don't want to use trash, so I'm not gonna play. As for the 1v1 bingos and story challenges, well, the first one for bingos, it's just kind of hard to put together bingo boards that I feel like aren't just repeated from the same stuff over and over again, so it gets kind of dry. And the story challenges, just like I said, I've done a lot of them at this point. I can only play through the story so many times in so many different ways, while also continuing to make it entertaining. I said in a previous video that I wanted to do a blindfolded storyline with one of my friends giving me a hand, and I think I'm still gonna do that. I just don't know when that's gonna happen, or if that's gonna happen. But at the very least, it's on my list of things that I might do. The second question is from who asks, what would be your ideal JoJo game? What aspects of current JoJo games would you like to see Frankenstein together into one game? And this is a great question that I'm actually going to hijack and make it not even totally about the question. And by that I mean, behind the scenes, I've been approached by a myriad of different developers asking me to consult or test or whatever for their upcoming game. The vast majority of them, I've basically sent them a message being really harsh and saying, if I think it's a waste of time and you don't think you have what it takes, then I don't want to be a part of it. And so I've scared a lot of people away saying that, but there have been a few that I've been on board with, and I've talked to plenty of times at length about what I personally would like to see in games. But to give a more concrete answer, I think the #1 thing that matters is not having a stun simulator like AUT. YBA's combat is so good, and people love to rag on me in the comments every time I say this, saying it's a joke. I'm not joking. This isn't sarcasm. YBA's combat is phenomenal, and those of you that are saying YBA's combat is bad, would you rather get bopped once by an M1 and take half your health? Because that doesn't happen here. There are some outliers in YBA's combat, like Star Platinum, which can stun you for 40 years, but aside from that, most of the things across the board won't punish you for half your health if you make one small mistake. That's the best thing about YBA's combat. It feels fluid to use, and mistakes aren't instantly punishable by death. It makes it so that people are much more willing to actually take risks, and it makes for a more offensive and just generally entertaining game to play. And while I could sit here and go into the in-depths of why YBA's combat is so good, I think that that's the #1 thing that I look for in a JoJo game, because that's the #1 thing you're doing, is fighting people. And if fighting NPCs or fighting actual players isn't fun and doesn't have good mechanics, then everything else doesn't matter. And that's something I've seen a lot in the developments of these games, where developers like to try to focus on move sets and all this other stuff and then ignore their base combat, which is the most important thing, just because it's more fun to talk about move sets and that kind of stuff. Aside from combat, I think having variety and choice matters a lot, as well as having some sort of progression system that's ideally active across whatever you're doing in the game. It always bugs me that when you're playing YBA, if you go into 1v1s, you get $50 for a win, and that's it. Which basically means playing 1v1s is completely pointless. If you got an item or something for playing or winning a match, then that would make sense. Or an actual decent amount of money, you get neither. So playing both 1v1s and 2v2s just doesn't get you anywhere in terms of progression. And one thing that I haven't seen yet, but I would like to see in the future, that I've talked about a fair few times with other developers, is an actual choice system in skill trees when it comes to choosing moves and choosing upgrades that change the way the moves work, but lock off different paths. Which may sound very confusing, and that's because it is, so I'll explain it as short as I can. Imagine you have Star Platinum, and you have to unlock Starfinger in order to get to the rest of the skill tree. And then when you unlock Starfinger, there's two upgrades for Starfinger. One that makes it faster and one that makes it stun for longer. I don't know, that's just a random thing to throw out there. If you get the one that's faster, it locks the one that stuns for longer and vice versa. And then if you want to take it a step further, you can make it so that whatever you choose on the first upgrade path may lock a move or something else on the second path. This would be interesting not only because you could have more moves per stand, just by the nature of the fact that one person isn't going to have like 50 binds, so you can just have more moves, but it also means builds are basically doubled with what you can mess around with and do. And I think this idea of not only being able to upgrade your moves to have different properties, but also having different choices is something that could add a lot of longevity to a game, and we just haven't seen anything like that as far as I know. Aside from that though, I spent 6 hours on this question, and I think I've explained as much as I can, so we better move on. Third question is from Arsuka, who asks, based on how you've been playing Eyes of Heaven, is it expected that we'll see you play JoJo AllStar Battle R when it comes out? Also, congrats on 200k subs. Thank you, Arsuka, but the answer to this question is probably not the one you'd expect, and that's no. No, I don't really have any plans to play AllStar Battle Remastered when it comes out. Some of you are probably asking, but Eclipse, why would you not want to play AllStar Battle when it comes out? It's the first JoJo game that's officially licensed that's come out in basically forever, and it's a fighting game. You like fighting games, right? And I might blow your mind here, but not really, no. I talk a lot of big game about fighting games, but especially 2D fighters, I never could get into them. I think they're incredibly fun to watch, but actually going and playing them, oh God, no, please. I just can't do it. I'm a casual at heart, and playing those 2D fighting games, not for me. The most fun that I ever get out of YBA and these other games is usually playing with other people in these big modes where lots of people are involved. And so a really intimate one-on-one fighter that's just that and basically nothing else, there's almost zero appeal. I like progression and messing with skill trees. That won't be present. I like playing with more than one person. As far as I know, that won't be present. I like big maps and 3D environments. Not gonna be present. I think you're starting to get the idea here. I just don't have any hype for this game and really just don't care about it. Next question is from Bruh Moment, who asks, what type of videos do you find the hardest / most tedious to make? Examples being standard review, builder bust, bingo, basically anything. This question is great because the answer probably isn't what you expect, but the hardest and most tedious videos to make are also the ones that I think are the best, and the ones that tend to not do as well, which is frustrating. Your examples in there, stand reviews, builder busts, bingos, all of those, stupid easy. I go in, I record for like an hour, and then I edit for like 3 to 4 hours, and that's a wrap. Those videos are not hard, and they do not take very long. The videos in recent memory that have been harder to make are the Titan Warfare videos, which a fair few of them have done awful. The 4v4 tournament video, which took me an eternity and hasn't done as well as some of my other YBA videos, despite it being one of the best videos on the channel. and almost all of my FPS videos, which always do the worst and almost always have the most time put into them. So depending on how you look at it, it's either fortunate or unfortunate that the big money makers on my channel are dummy easy to make, and the things that fail, crash, and burn take forever. But I think when it comes down to it, the reason that those videos take so much longer is because I'm invested and want them to be better, and then as such take the time to make them better. When I'm throwing together a YBA video to cash in and make sure that my channel doesn't die, I don't really care about the quality, nor do I care about the gameplay most of the time. It's just, this needs to be good enough so that people will watch it, whatever, I don't care. Whereas when I make something where I think that I could legitimately make a good video, and I think that I would enjoy it if I was watching it from an outside perspective, then it takes a lot longer. So it's all self-inflicted, but you know what? There's not much I can do about it, so it is what it is. Biscuit Boy asks, have you thought about playing Deep Woken or its predecessor, Rogue Lineage? No. No, I've not. Eclipse, play Deep Woken. Eclipse, play Deep Woken. Eclipse, play Deep Woken. No. Muri asks, hey Eclipse, since you say a lot of problems YBA has, what could you do to make the game perfect in your vision? This is similar to one of the questions I answered earlier, but I think it's different enough that I want to answer it right now. I've already said that YBA is already very, very good. I truly believe that, and if you don't believe that, then you haven't been paying any attention to the player numbers that have been static for the last how many months, years even? So clearly the game is good because people keep coming back. Now when it comes to make it perfect, I don't think any game can be perfect, but YBA just needs so little to get there, which is why it almost crushes me that it sits just on the verge of greatness, but the owner just doesn't care, so it's never gonna get there. Obviously, removing vampire subspecs is probably the #1 thing at the top of my list because that's just really stupid. But it's so many small quality of life things, like making vampires be able to M1 with umbrellas, making it so you can't pose in reality marble, making it so that time stop ragdolls you at the end so that you don't get comboed off of it, general spec changes so that all of the fighting styles are more in line with boxing and we see more use of all of them, and really just more stuff. Because YBA is so good that what it just needs is more stuff, which is what it doesn't get. It just makes me sad. Next question is from H-Man, who says, as time is moving on, I and probably many other people have seen your editing getting a lot better, which I think you mentioned yourself. Point being, is this improvement intentional? Do you think that it's worth spending this amount of time and effort with it? I don't think my editing has really improved, more so that I've gotten more time and been more invested in what I'm doing. I think if you gave me like 12 hours to make a video 3 or 4 months ago and gave me the same level of passion that I went into making, for example, the 4v4 tournament video, then I would probably give you a very similar, if not identical result to what we have now. Obviously, I've slowly and passively just learned things, especially about pacing when it comes to my videos. But I really don't think it's that my editing has improved, and more so that I just care more about what I'm working on. You also may notice that people have been commenting about my editing getting better, and there's also a correlation between people saying that and less YBA videos on the channel. So, yeah. No, but seriously, if you go to my Eclipse FPS channel or any of my past Battlefield videos, I think the edits and pacing and comedy and all of the stuff on there is plenty on par, if not better, than a lot of the stuff I do today. So I don't necessarily think it's gotten better. I think I just care a little bit more now. Next question is from Dr. Sleepy, who asks, don't know if this was already asked, but do you ever reuse old footage you've already recorded? For example, old YBA 1v1 footage, or do you always make new background footage when you need to? If someone can go through every single one of my videos and find me reusing footage, I would be impressed, because I'm fairly certain that I've never done that. Anytime I play a game, I usually record it, which just generally has me having a pretty big archive when it comes to background footage for stuff. It's a habit I've started doing to make my life easier in the long run. So like, for example, if I log on to Titan Warfare and I want to do my daily quests, while I'm doing those, I'll probably record what I'm doing or record a specific thing that I know I might do in the future. Like maybe I'll record using a Titan or something, for example, while I'm trying to do my daily quest. And then if I think the footage is good, I'll just save it, put it in a folder, and if I ever get around to doing that, then I already have footage and I don't need to record new stuff. But when it comes to YBA, especially recently, I haven't played a whole lot, so I have to go out and record it. So like, I guess the best example would be, I had footage because I was recording to make a The World video for AUT, and then it sat there, and then I used it for my AUT is failed video. And so I didn't technically reuse it, but I'd never used that footage before. So I don't know if that counts, but other than that, I don't think I ever reuse footage. It's always something new. Next question comes from Paclone Inc. I don't know how to say your name, I'm sorry. They ask, Eclipse, do you have a backup plan for YouTube if YBA ever goes down? Short answer, no, I'll be screwed. Longer answer, I mean, maybe, probably. I'm sure I'd be fine because I think there's some stuff. I'd probably maybe move over to Titan Warfare or something because I feel like I can make enough videos on that I would be able to sustain. But if the meta for Roblox YouTube when it comes to JoJo and anime moves over to something like Stand Upright Rebooted, God help me. Oh my God, it would be over. I really have absolutely no idea what I would do. I would be so lost. Obviously, I wish that I could just go out and do whatever the hell I wanted if YBA went down forever, but I don't think that's realistic. If you look at the views for anything I do outside of Roblox, really in general, it's just a crash and burn almost all of the time. So my backup plan is hope and pray that Stand Upright Rebooted dies before that happens. Next question is from King697, who asks, will you do more SBR rating, just like the beatdown squads? I really enjoyed watching them. I'm glad you enjoyed those videos, and honestly, I enjoyed making them. But in recent memory, I haven't thought of a time where I really wanted to go and do one of these videos, outside of very recently, where it didn't even make it into its own video. I went and played SBR for practice for that 4v4 tournament a little while back, and that was just put into the 4v4 tournament itself, just with a few highlights. The thing about the SBR raids is that they're a little bit complicated when it comes to actually doing them and getting people together to do them. But that's probably a bit confusing, so let me explain. When I do SBR raids, obviously I need to get people on board to do them with me. And that really isn't that hard. I can just go into the staff chat of AllStar and be like, hey, does anyone want to go play with Aerosmith? I don't know. And I would wager that a whole bunch of them would be like, yes, let's do that. But there's a few problems that crop up. And the first one is the whole bunch of them factor. Because SBR in of itself, I had a lot of fun with for the first time in a long time when we went and did it with The World Over Heaven. But that fun quickly fell off the more people that we actually got involved. I think SBR is a lot of fun when you have 2 to 4 people, but once it gets over that, it stops being fun at all. Once you've passed over that capacity of people, you can't really do team combos a lot of the time because people are just mashing buttons, and any amount of challenge or suspense is just erased immediately. There's no possible way that you're going to lose in an SBR with 7 people. It's just not gonna happen. Even 5 or 6 people. If you manage to lose with 5 to 6 competent players, I don't even know what to tell you. And so the problem with making these kinds of SBR raid videos is I could go into my staff chat for AllStar and tell people, hey, let's do a raid with this, but I'd probably end up with like 6 people at the end of the day. And then it's not fun. But I can't tell the people playing with me, hey, this isn't fun because we have 6 people, so I need to pick and choose and exclude people because then I'm an asshole. And doing that would make me an asshole. And believe it or not, I don't want to be a dickhead for YouTube views. So while it seems simple on paper to just get some people together and play SBR and make a video on it, it is not that simple. And the other problem that I haven't mentioned yet is the organicness of it. I think one of the things that makes a lot of my videos with other people special is how real it can feel when it comes to the interactions between myself and others. And I think a lot of that realness comes from the fact that people that I play with are either used to me recording or aren't aware that I was recording until after the fact. And I've gotten to the point where when I play with other people, me on camera versus me just playing, there's not really much of a difference. And the reason there's not much of a difference is because the recording is always on for me. I've desensitized myself to it on purpose so that I'm always just my natural self. But for other people, that's not necessarily the same. And so I'm not saying that the people I'm playing with are going to play it up for the camera or anything, but I do think that a little bit of the video is lost when people know directly that they're going into a YouTube video. Now obviously there's some parts of me that you don't see on camera. Some of you have probably seen it on streams, especially when I just get angry, because watching me be a salty crybaby, just not very much fun, despite what some may say in the comments. To answer your question, I don't really see this happening for a while unless a blue moon occurs and I don't have to be a dick and have to eject people from playing SBR with me. And the last question comes from Kid Gamer MSD, who asks, will you ever start streaming again? I kind of miss them. And I've answered this question in the past, and I'm answering it again here with a slightly different answer. In the past, I think I said something along the lines of, absolutely not. I am never going back to streaming, and I think that might still hold true. But it's not an absolutely not anymore, because in truth, I do kind of miss streaming, but what I don't miss about streaming is playing YBA and being told to play YBA over and over again. When I streamed, what I truly enjoyed was just playing what I wanted to play. A lot of the time that was Battlefield 2042, and not a whole lot of people came out to those, which made it so that it wasn't even a little bit worthwhile doing when it came to time versus the amount of money I make, which, surprise, surprise, is actually important when this is your job, but there were some good times on the stream. It's just for me, setting aside 3 to 4 hours to just do nothing but sit there and play a game can be a little bit taxing sometimes, number one. And number two, if I'm just not having fun, I don't really have any choice unless I just want to end the stream prematurely. And when it comes to not having fun, if I'm not having fun and I continue to not have fun for like 3 hours, then I don't see how you guys can bear watching like me cry like a baby about getting killed over and over again. It's hard for me to go back and watch that. I don't know how you guys watch that live. It's kind of mind-blowing. I know people like to think of themselves as like paragons of great people and that they would never get angry at a video game, but if you have to sit there for 3 hours straight while getting bullied by your chat and having a miserable time, it's inevitable that at some point you're gonna get salty and then people are gonna make fun of you for getting salty. And while that's rightfully so that you make fun of me for being salty, it's not very much fun for me. And that's basically the main reason that I stopped doing streams. It took up a whole lot of my time. People just didn't watch them if it wasn't Roblox or YBA. And if I was having a rough day already, or just started having a rough day, I would just have to sit there and just kind of take the abuse. The pressure of trying not to be mad at something that happens to you because you know that you'll get made fun of, or not be able to edit out something stupid you said, is very real. And it just adds a lot of stress on my day that I feel like I don't need. At the end of the day, will I ever start streaming again? Maybe, but I wouldn't put any money on it. And that's that. That's all the questions that we have for today. I think a lot of these questions were very solid. I don't know if my answers quite lived up to the questions that were asked, but there's not much I can really do about that now. If you enjoyed the video, you liked what you saw, you can go ahead and leave a like and subscribe. If you didn't, you can not do those things. And with all that being said, have a wonderful day or night wherever you are, and I'll see you next time.